when they give you a putt, you say, thank you very much. You pick up your ball and you walk to the next hole.
We got breaking news once again. Welcome back to Moose and Loose. My name's David. Today we've got Donald Trump making a deal with China. We've got Terrebonne riding in Quebec potentially flipping again because Elections Canada messed up. Chrystia Freeland might not be part of the cabinet. She might be getting sent over to another country. And we've got immigration numbers that paint a grim picture for Canada. Let's jump into this. So we've got another update coming from the Terrebonne Quebec riding that the Liberals won by 1 vote. So this is being contested by possible error in mail-in ballot system. Coming from CBC here, it says block vote lost in Terrebonne due to Elections Canada error. A voter in this riding who claims to have voted for the Bloc Québécois had her ballot returned earlier this month after she had submitted it by mail several weeks earlier. This is because an address error was made on the envelope provided by Elections Canada. This means it wasn't on her. This is Elections Canada's fault, which they said they acknowledged the error. This single vote is far from insignificant as Terrebonne riding has had historic result in the federal elections. April 28th recount confirmed Liberals won by just 1 vote. The voter in question, Emmanuel Bosse, was voting by mail for the first time because she wanted to try it. Goes on to say here she received this back. It said the recipient had moved or that it was an unknown address. She said she was pretty angry. So in event of a tie here, this will go to a by-election. This is unbelievable. This will have to go a court challenge first. Once they verify the final results, then there's a 30-day period for the bloc to file a court challenge. They'll say this vote should count, and if the judge accepts this, then it'll go to a by-election. So we might not know for a while how many seats the Liberals actually get. So it goes on to say here, when she compared the mailing address on the sticker by Elections Canada on the envelope to that of the offices in Terrebonne, Emmanuel Bosse noticed a difference, the last 3 characters of the postal code. So this is very interesting because her vote wasn't counted. It should be tied now, but it goes on to say here of all the special ballot voting kits that were sent out, only 946 of 1,114 were received. There's still about 60 votes that didn't come in. Next up, we've got reports that Chrystia Freeland is getting tossed out of the cabinet. There's also reports that she might be getting pushed over to the UK or the European Union as an ambassador to get her away from Donald Trump. Maybe this is part of the negotiations with Trump. He wants her nowhere near him. As this one says, Chrystia Freeland will reportedly not be in PM Mark Carney's cabinet. We have Brian Lilly talking about this today.
All right, so is Chrystia Freeland going to be in cabinet tomorrow, or is she getting a diplomatic appointment? Hi, Brian Lilly here, and the chatter has been going on all day. It's getting hotter into the afternoon. Nothing confirmed yet, but it does appear that Chrystia Freeland will be getting a diplomatic appointment instead of being a cabinet minister in Mark Carney's new government. Now, look, it can't be Washington. We all know that Donald Trump hates her. I think the feeling's mutual, but, so where else would she go? Possibly the United Nations? Replace Bob Ray? She's lived in New York before. Her husband still has a place there. They could easily settle into New York. It could be the European Union, perhaps. That's a big enough, appointment for her to step down as a cabinet minister. But my feeling is United Kingdom. Head to London, replace Ralph Goodale, have Ralph go back to Regina. And, this is another place that she has lived and worked before, has an awful lot of contacts. So just one little nugget ahead of the cabinet announcement.
So they'll be announcing this today. We don't know yet. Next up, we've got this one. 2 men riding on a motorcycle while wielding some of these ceremonial devices. This is ridiculous. And this at the end of the video. What? And we got some Calistanis walking barefoot. This has got to end. You can't have guys walking around with these sharp pointies. They say it's because they're religion, but that's a joke. We know that's absurd. Come on. I'm starting my own religion called common sense. Next up, we got a clip here on CBC. You got to listen to this. This comment by Lisa Raitt just comes out of nowhere.
But to go back to his priorities, Vonda, to that Friday press conference that Mark Carney gave, and in the first couple of sentences said, to deal with the U.S., to grow the economy, and people also want safer communities, and they want help with the cost of living, right? And housing being a big part of that. That right there tells me what the core priorities of his cabinet would be.
It's a conservative platform.
Well, yes. Well, we'll see.
Little crumb snatcher here, David Cochrane's got to laugh it off. He knows it's true. Mark Carney just ripped off Pierre Poilievre's platform and had his buddy Donald Trump help him get elected. Cue ball Cochrane. Yeah, people mentioning here the comment about Poilievre being a dick, and that's all people see now when they see David Cochrane. His over-the-top laugh, too. He was just howling over that. We've got table salt with this one. It says breaking immigration immigration train wreck in Canada between 2024 and 2025, Canada added 512,000 working age Canadians 25 to 54 years old, but only 182,000 more people working full time. So that's less than half the people brought in working age are working in jobs. That doesn't necessarily mean they don't want to work. It means there aren't enough jobs or people aren't working. Either way, it's more people getting money from our system than people putting money into the system in taxes. This is how crime increases. Yep. Makes sense. I couldn't find work in Vancouver from January to October 2024. Was filtered out with DEI applications. There's zero benefit to bringing in this many people. It's just a strain on Canada. That is what's happening. It's destroying our country, bringing in too many people. There's not enough jobs. The government is constraining our economy, and what would benefit our economy, critical minerals, oil and gas, exploration, all these big energy projects, we could put people to work, but they don't want to do them. It's like the government is working directly against us, and yet the people voted for more of this. Take a look at this graph here. Canada net international migration 1952 to 2023. Can we tell when Justin Trudeau got into power? I still think this has direct connections to Justin Trudeau's real estate development company. Easiest way to get rich is bring in more people and increase the demand on housing. Now we're seeing the housing market crash. If they knew when they were going to increase the immigration, saw the housing prices spike, then they could have sold all their houses in 2022, 2023. Trudeau was telling all the other liberals what he was doing. Get rich, sell your houses, cash out. Now the market's crashing. I don't know. We don't have any more detail on what his real estate development company actually has or owns, unfortunately. That should be disclosed to the public. Next up, we got this one on the UK. It says major setback for Miliband as North Sea wind farm project halted. Ørsted blames soaring costs as it pulls plug on offshore development intended to power 2.6 million homes. This is just another UK project that has just completely gone bust. One of the net zero agenda projects that's completely failed. We got this one here. It says international students file a record 20,245 asylum claims last year, just last year, with 2025 on track to surpass that number, according to federal immigration data obtained by Global News. Foreign students coming in, pretending they're students, then filing asylum to stay in Canada. Freeloaders who feel rules don't and shouldn't apply to them go home. No more foreign loopholes. It should take 10 years to get citizenship in Canada. Yes, agreed. Everyone knows it's a scam. Why does Canada allow this? Because Canadians voted for more liberal rule. 43% of the population is uneducated what's going on in our country. It's so out of control and purposely done. Next up, we got Kirk posting this one here. It says, it's bad when Canadian companies who have a near monopoly in Canada still get money for projects, decide to cancel them and invest in the US. That's in regards to Bell Canada scraps Labrador high-speed internet project plans to invest in the US. This is just another 1-2 punch from the Liberals and Donald Trump. Moving business to America. Maybe the government shouldn't cut up all Starlink contracts. We got this one from CBC. It says multiple North American-based organizations have chosen to relocate their upcoming conferences either partially or fully after members express safety concerns about travel to the US. I don't know if I buy this. I did show that one poll coming from CBC. Are they just trying to push this fear that people fear America to keep stoking that fear of Donald Trump? Big, scary orange man. I was born in Canada and live in the USA. CBC should be ashamed of themselves. Reasons to fear the US. You're an illegal immigrant and you run around committing crimes. Yeah, that exactly. Not if you're a Canadian who goes to visit America. That's ridiculous. So we got some big news here. America and China have made a short-term deal to make a bigger deal. They've basically gone on a 90-day pause to make an actual deal regarding all their crazy tariffs that are going back and forth.
This morning, a major trade breakthrough and possibly some relief for Americans. The U.S. and China announcing that both countries will dramatically reduce tariffs for 90 days while they negotiate.
We had very robust discussions.
De-escalating the trade war that was started by President Trump's massive tariffs on China that had raised prices and rocked the market. The U.S. agreeing to lower its 145% tax on Chinese goods to 30%, while China will go from a 125% tariff on American products to 10%. China is one of the top trading partners for the U.S., last year exchanging more than $582 billion worth of goods. After tariffs from both sides, many businesses in the U.S. warned of rising prices and delays. Now, negotiations continue, China saying the agreement is, quote, an important step.
I think we're going to have a very good relationship.
So we've got some other details in this thread here. So there's 3 concessions. This one, China agreed to reduce tariffs from 115 down to 10%. This matches the exact reduction the U.S. offered, creating parity for the first time in this trade battle. Number 2, we've got this one, China removes all countermeasures beyond tariffs China had imposed, severe non-tariff barriers. Officials said these effectively created a trade embargo against U.S. goods. Now they've agreed to remove all of these barriers. And third, we've got this one here, perhaps the most surprising. China sent their deputy minister for public safety to address the street fentanyl crisis. U.S. officials called this an upside surprise, completely unexpected at a trade meeting.
For me, from this weekend was the level of Chinese engagement on the fentanyl crisis in the United States. They brought the deputy minister for public safety, who is not traditionally part of the trade team or the negotiating team, and he had a very robust and highly detailed discussion with someone from the U.S. National Security Team.
So trying to crack down on the street fentanyl. Next up, we got this article. It says Ireland given 2 months to begin implementing hate speech laws or face legal action from the EU. SpaghettiOs. Maybe it wasn't such a good idea to join the EU. Under existing EU rules combating these words I can't say on this platform, it says Ireland is failing to comply with the laws. This is a slippery slope here. What will Ireland do? Will they comply, or will they not comply, or want to leave the EU? So next up, there's a bunch of outroar that Donald Trump is accepting this plane, this $400 million gift from Qatar, this Jumbo 747 here, as the new Air Force One, while they figure out the contract for Boeing building the new Air Force One.
Because again, we're talking about, we have 40-year-old aircraft. The money we spend, the maintenance we spend on those planes to keep them tippy-top is astronomical. You wouldn't even believe it. So I think it's a great gesture from Qatar.
When asked about this from ABC News, Donald Trump just goes off.
President, what do you say to people who view that luxury jet as a personal gift to you? Why not leave it behind?
You're ABC fake news, right?
Why not?
It's only ABC. Well, a few of you would. Let me tell you, you should be embarrassed asking that question. They're giving us a free jet. I could say, no, don't give us, I want to pay you $1 billion or 400 million or whatever it is. Or I could say, thank you very much. You know, there was an old golfer named Sam Snead. Did you ever hear of him? He won 82 tournaments. He was a great golfer. And he had a motto: when they give you a putt, you say, thank you very much. You pick up your ball and you walk to the next hole. A lot of people are stupid. They say, no, I insist on putting it. And then they putt it and they miss it. And their partner gets angry at them. You know what? Remember that, Sam Snead. When they give you a putt, you pick it up and you walk to the next hole and you say, thank you very much.
Respectfully, sir, as a businessman,
There's a good analogy. It does work in this situation. Although a $400 million jet and a free putt, maybe a little bit different here. They're going to have to take apart the whole jet and check for bugs. That's exactly what I was thinking. Is there any way they can trust that jet by just jumping in and using it? Take the gift, but inspect the jet top to bottom. And we got this one coming from the Treasury Secretary saying that talking to China, they didn't respect the laws that were in place with America because they didn't respect Joe Biden.
What has to happen is it has to be fair for the American people. But in January 2020, President Trump produced a template. We had an excellent trade agreement with China, and the Biden administration chose not to enforce it. The Chinese delegation basically told us that once President Biden came into office, they just ignored their obligations. So, we all already have a large framework. The other thing to remember here, Jonathan, is that this is a pause down to 10%. The April 2nd level for China is 34%. So we will be working to see where their final reciprocal number ends up. And the negotiations are a combination of tariffs, non-tariff trade barriers, currency manipulation, and subsidies of labor and capital.
I know Democrats in America would probably say these are all lies, but I think this is true. I think China took advantage of Joe Biden because he's weak, because they knew he wouldn't push back and do anything against them for breaking their trade agreement. Next up, we got Chris Stacey posting this one. Says they've closed the beach to non-Indigenous people. So this is on Long Beach. They closed it. Apparently there's potential fines of up to $10,000 or $15,000 if anyone who's not First Nations goes on the beach because a whale washed up here expired. As it says here, popular Tofino Beach closed to public as First Nations hold ceremony honoring the dead whale. A bunch of people up in arms because, well, First Nations doesn't have the right to close the beach. First Nations doesn't control Canada. If there's one thing to have a space where they can have a ceremony, it's another thing just to close the entire beach for this. As this comment from Maria says, at least there's a body this time. Ooh, okay. I'd like to see how this is enforced. Well, apparently there's a big fine. Once again, that fine doesn't seem to be legal though, but their ancestor would have lit a fire and had a cookout. Yeah, of course they would have. They're not going to let all this whale fat go to waste. We're seeing more and more of this. They keep closing down Joffrey Lakes because it's on traditional First Nations land, so now people can't hike there anymore. Like, this is getting out of control. First Nations can't just go close everything willy-nilly because they feel like it. We all have to be treated as equals. There's this very apparent problem in Canada where most citizens are second-class citizens. Others have extra rights, extra privileges, can get jobs easier, get more benefits. Every Canadian needs to be treated equal. In other news coming from the Vancouver Sun, it says BC's on track to become a net importer of electricity in 2025, buying it from the US for the third consecutive year. So that's right. So BC sells electricity to the US when we make a lot of hydroelectricity, and then we buy energy from America later on when we need it. But in this case, due to BC's low snowpack, melt signal drought, rising concerns for hydropower. That's right, putting all of our chips in these eco-green energy sources is coming back to bite us in the butt. Drier, warmer weather in much of BC the last month has contributed to early melt, rising concerns for widespread drought this summer. Maybe we should be investing in some nuclear power or clean natural gas. How about that, guys? Instead, they've been demonizing natural gas in this province. This province run by David Eby is going nowhere. David Eby is the biggest disgrace of a premier in Canadian history. Today, at some point, Mark Carney is going to come up with his full new cabinet. Is he going to shuffle people around now that he's got different players to put in the different positions? Will Sean Fraser get shuffled into the cabinet? Will Chrystia Freeland be in the cabinet? I sure hope Ikra Khalid and Trina Gould don't get cabinet positions. And will Mark Carney finally announce who his deputy prime minister is?